What up, boys? I just want to make a quick video. Recently, I've seen some pretty good progress in my upper traps. This is an area that's been a weak point for me for a very long time. Reason being that I just never really gave it any direct love and attention. And when you're somebody who doesn't have good genetics for building traps, you can't really get away with doing that. If you do have great genetics for building your traps, pretty much doing anything is going to grow them, and at that point it doesn't even matter. This video isn't for you. But for you individuals out there who have shitty trap genetics and for some reason that area just is stubborn and won't grow as a result of your other, bigger compound lifts, you may need to give it some direct love and attention, and I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to do that in this video that have worked for me being in the same predicament. Back when I had the issue of being a traplet, I commented on one of Atlas Power Shrug's videos on Instagram, kind of just mourning the idea that I have a weak lower back and I have a weak traps and I don't really know what to do about them. And he just told me to power shrug. Just flat out. He's like, do some power shrugs, bro. And I was like, can it really be that simple? And around that time at my gym, somebody had donated a trap bar implement. And I was like, that's an amazing thing for shrugs in general. What if I do power shrugs using those? So I started doing trap bar, power shrugs, and lo and behold, it ended up being the case that that movement in particular was very effective for growing my traps. Finally, for the first time, I was experiencing like severe DOMs in my upper traps, and on top of that, seeing rapid growth. Like, we're talking weeks. Within weeks, I was seeing growth in my traps because that area was so untapped. And what I did was very simple. I started out with a rep and set scheme of 3 by 8 to 12. The starting weight was 200 pounds in week 1. Very weak for power shrugs, but it's what I could manage at the time. What I would do is I would just apply a simple linear progression scheme to it. Every week I would come in and add 10 pounds to it while maintaining the reps. So I went from doing 200 pounds for 3 sets of 12 to 400 pounds the 3 sets of 12. And the difference was definitely noticeable. Hopefully it didn't mess up the audio too much. I have the little mic right here. But the difference in my traps is definitely noticeable. As you can see in the thumbnail of this video, I've made some serious progress in that particular area. And I highly suggest that if you are somebody who has your traps as a weak point and you're already an intermediate or late intermediate or however far along the way you are, give power shrugs a try. They really do work. People are not bullshitting you when they tell you power shrugs will build some big traps. I know some of the more popular kind of like things thrown around for growing your traps out there are like, oh, just deadlift and get a strong deadlift and you'll get big traps, or whatever else. But if you're somebody who isn't really interested in that powerlifting stuff and you don't want to deal with all that excess fatigue, like doing trap bar power shrugs barely fatigues me, bro. Barely. I can rest literally 2 minutes and be fresh and ready for that next set and be okay. Whereas a deadlift is just going to cause so much overall damage when your whole goal is to just increase size of your traps to weighted stretch. Something like a power shrug just gets that done so much better. And if you don't want to deal with the powerlifting shit, just do something like this or a rack pull, which is another option. But I do believe that a rack pull is a movement that you shouldn't apply as a newbie or even as an intermediate. I think the rack pull is more beneficial as like an advanced variation for overload. Unless you can rack pull at least like, let's say 600 pounds, it's not worth doing, to be honest with you. Just do power shrugs for reps and you're going to get much better results out of that, and you're also going to get less chance of injury because if you're not ready to do rack pulls to that level, it's going to be a recipe for disaster, particularly for your shoulders and clavicles. But I'm kind of going off on a tangent. Back to the core of the video. Power shrugs are the truth, guys. They did the job for me. And so if you're somebody who has weak traps, I recommend that you give them a shot. You can do it the exact same way that I did it. But little disclaimer, if you are a beginner in the gym, I do not recommend doing this exercise as something in your routine that you do often. I don't recommend you do it at all. you need to build up a good enough base. This is definitely for you intermediate to late intermediate to advanced individuals to benefit from. For now, a good kind of aim to reach for is like a 405 deadlift, and at least be able to squat 315. Just some like intermediate strength levels that show that your body structurally can handle, you know, heavy stressors. Because going into a variation like this, that's the main benefit, is being able to use some heavy ass weight. And if your body can't even handle doing that, then it's a worthless variation. So yeah, you know, fucking your own discretion. It's at your own risk. Taking this advice. It's worked for me, and I think it's gonna work for you. And shout out to Atlas Power Shrugs. I appreciate the suggestion. I'm glad that I listened, because now I've got a pretty respectable set of traps, you know, no longer a traplet. So I've been saved from that fate, because it isn't a very good position to be in. Boy!